The Broken Bridge by Habs African Stories. The village of Menda sat nestled in a lush valley, embraced by hills carpeted in green and shadowed by the towering baobab trees that had stood for centuries. At its heart was the River Menda, a gentle but wide stretch of water that divided the village into two parts. On the western side of the river lay fertile fields that stretched endlessly, bearing crops of cassava, maize, and groundnuts. Prosperity thrived there, evident in the well-built homes with tin roofs and bustling market stalls. On the eastern side, life was harder. The rocky terrain yielded little, forcing the villagers to survive on fishing, weaving, and small crafts. Their homes were simpler, with thatched roofs and walls made of mud. But even in their struggles, the east side villagers had pride, a pride rooted in resilience and a deep sense of community. Between the two halves of the village stood Menda Bridge, a wooden structure held together by thick ropes and ingenuity. It wasn't just a bridge, it was a symbol. Built generations ago by the villagers working side by side, it represented unity and cooperation, a shared acknowledgement that despite their differences, they were one community. But the cracks in the bridge, which had gone unnoticed for years, now mirrored the growing divisions between the people. The west side, with its wealth, began to look down on the east as a burden. The east, with its struggles, grew bitter at the west's unwillingness to share its prosperity. 12-year-old Kadietu, Kadi, as her friends called her, lived on the eastern side with her mother, Marioma, and her 6-year-old brother, Amadou. Their hut was small but neatly kept, with a mat outside for visitors and a pot of herbs growing by the doorway. Kadi was known throughout the village for her sharp mind and her dreams of becoming a teacher. "Education will change our lives," she often said, her young voice filled with determination. Every morning, she crossed the bridge to attend school on the west side, where the classrooms were brighter and the teachers more qualified. She didn't care that her uniform was patched or that she often had to walk barefoot. What mattered was that she was learning. On the western side, 12-year-old Musa lived a very different life. The son of Alhaji Kamara, the wealthiest trader in Menda, Musa was surrounded by abundance. His home was The day the bridge fell began like any other. The sun rose slowly over the hills, casting a golden glow on the river. Kadi woke early, as she always did, to fetch water from the communal well. She balanced the clay pot on her head with practiced ease, her bare feet stepping lightly over the rocky path. "Good morning, Mama," she said as she entered the hut. Marioma, busy grinding cassava into flour, smiled at her daughter. "Good morning, my bright star. Did you sleep well?" "Yes, Mama. I'll eat quickly so I can reach school on time." Amadou, still half asleep, grumbled from his mat. "Do you have to go to school every day? You should stay and play with me." Kadi laughed, ruffling his hair. "One day, you'll understand why it's important." By the time she crossed the bridge, the sky was already beginning to change. Dark clouds gathered in the distance, heavy with the promise of rain. The air grew thick, and the usual chatter of the villagers was replaced with murmurs of concern. "Storm's coming," an elderly man said, shaking his head. "It'll be a big one." Kadi reached her classroom just as the first drops of rain began to fall. The storm built quickly, transforming the gentle drizzle into a torrential downpour. By noon, the wind howled like a beast, ripping through the trees and sending debris flying through the air. On the west side, Musa watched the chaos from the safety of his home. Traders scrambled to save their goods, tying down tarpaulins and pulling carts to shelter. His father paced in frustration, muttering about the storm ruining business. "Musa, stay inside," his mother called. "This is not a day to wander." But Musa couldn't stay still. Something about the storm unsettled him, pulling him toward the river. He grabbed his raincoat and slipped out, ignoring his mother's warnings. By the time he reached the bridge, it was clear that something was very wrong. The river, usually calm and steady, the ropes straining as the water pushed against them. On the eastern side, Cardi had also ventured to the riverbank, drawn by the same unexplainable pull. She stood under a tree, her heart pounding as she watched the bridge sway dangerously. And then, it happened. A deafening crack split the air as one of the ropes snapped, sending a section of the bridge plunging into the water. Cardi screamed as the rest of the bridge collapsed in slow, agonizing motion, its wooden planks disappearing into the angry river. When the storm finally passed, the villagers emerged to find their worst fears realized. Menda Bridge was gone, and with it, the fragile link that had held the village together.